I'm going to read you some stats. You could tell me if this is Ronald Acuna or if this is my created player in MLB The Show. 334 batting average, right?
Yep.
He's walked 48 times. He has 58 RBI. He has 125 hits. He scored 84 runs already this season. I mean, Acuna is going to win National League MVP, right? Because
he's got the stolen bases.
He's got the stolen bases, too. The other thing that you could bet, you could go Acuna versus the field. The field's plus 400. Acuna is minus 600. I wouldn't take the field. I mean, Mookie Betts is plus 650. Freddie Freeman 16-1. Then you get into Juan Soto at 40-1. So there's a huge drop-off right there. I love Corbin Carroll. Love him as Rookie of the Year, but 40-1 price, same as Juan Soto. He's not going to be National League MVP, although a really fun story. It's going to be Ronald Acuna.
You think he's the second best player in the sport outside of Ohtani?
Next to Ohtani?
You think Acuna's second? You think it's Mookie?
Overall player, yeah. I like Mookie a lot.
Trout,
I like
Judge.
I think Judge has proven his worth right now just by being hurt. I mean, last year was really fun. But man, yeah, I'm gonna go probably number 2. It's tough though. I mean, all those guys right there. That's my top 5, obviously.
I completely
and then of
agree.
course Ian Happ. But
I would take all of them. No, I would take Acuna too as well. I just the way he affects every single part of the game except pitching, and obviously that's what makes Shohei one. But he does everything offensively that you could ever want. You just labeled all the things that he does. He hits for average. He hits for power. He draws walks. He steals bases. He scores runs. He is unbelievable. Oh, and by the way, defensively in right field, he's got like the biggest cannon of any outfielder. So he's tremendous. I do think he's the second best player in baseball. I do think there's some value on Gausman, potentially, just because of how bad Manoah has been this year.
He's been awful.
Horrible. And it's kind of highlighted like how much Kevin Gausman has meant to that team. The Blue Jays are fighting for a playoff spot right now, too. We know the Orioles and the Rays are atop the East. Blue Jays are fighting for their playoff live. So if Gausman down the stretch here is just able to dominate, go on like a Blake Snell type run that Snell's been on here in the last month and a half, 2 months, I think Gausman would be the guy to watch. Garrett Cole, Ryan, it just feels like there have been years that he's been so much better than he is this year that, like, why would this be the year that he wins Cy Young, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe it's because the competitors aren't as strong as it's been in years past, but I don't know, man. I can't get there with Cole for some reason. To me, Gausman is the bet. Now, McClanahan is back, and hopefully he stays healthy for the Rays. And again, now that the Orioles have caught him, maybe that almost helps Shane McClanahan in the Cy Young market to dominate. Like, if he's throwing against the O's in this upcoming series, if he goes like 8 innings, 1 hit, I mean, he might jump up like, $100 or something, go from plus 500 to like plus 400, just like that. So he would be the guy that I would watch is McClanahan, but I think Gausman would be my bet.
Spencer Strider's plus 240. Zach Gallen is plus 250. I would go Strider over Gallen.
Agreed.
But, Blake Snell, the price is long gone, but 5-1, plus 500 for Blake Snell, who's kind of came out of nowhere, man.
What
he's having a pretty solid
right?
season. He's only 6-7, but record doesn't matter. He has a 2.85 ERA, and he has a 32% strikeout rate, which only trails Spencer Strider, whose strikeout rate is 38%, which is why I think his price is about right.
So I think Strider is the guy because Gallen's home and road splits are very drastic.
Yeah.
Unreal at home, but he really struggles on the road. And then Blake Snell's starts this season was really bad, that even though he's been unbelievable here the last 7-8 weeks of the season, I think those first starts that he had, like the first month and a half, I think could be held against him. Now, Strider's had some up and down starts, but I think of every guy, like, if you look at the complete body of resume, home, road, strikeouts, ERA, wins, losses, kind of who's been the same dominance throughout, I think it's been Strider for the most part. So I would agree with you. At this point, Strider would probably be my bet.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, he had a rocky month of June, I guess you could say. He gave up 13 runs in 9 innings against the Mets and Tigers in that month, but he's came back down to his regular self, 4-0 with a 1.38 ERA last month, 39 strikeouts in 26 innings. And also, I mean, the 38% strikeout rate is pretty impressive. I was looking, I don't know if he has a chance to get to above 40%. He actually probably could. And he would be only I believe, the second qualified starter to do that since Shane Bieber did it in 2020. And 2020 was the pandemic shortened season. So I don't even remember how many starts he made that year. So I think it is Strider.
Cam Young was a player that made my long list, 55 to 1 as an outright, 190 plus 190 for a top 20. He's going to get attention because he took solo second in this tournament last year. However, this is a very different course than what was played at the Open in 2022. That course was very wide fairways, lots of green to work with. This year, it's a lot more narrow, and Young, although he has the distance, he definitely does not have the driving accuracy. 66 in the field when it comes to driving accuracy. His around the green game is outside of the top 50. He's not a very good putter. So he was one of those players that, hey, on paper, it looks like he could contend because he bombs it off the tee, gains strokes off with his driver. But the rest of his game is kind of, I need more from him in order to want to even wager a top 30 market. So at first glance, looked great. At further deep into it, not interested.
Let's talk about my pick to win the ACC. I'm going with Clemson. I just think they're a sleeping giant because everybody's talking about Georgia, rightfully so. They're awesome. And then everybody's talking about Florida State in the ACC. We're going to talk about them coming up here shortly. But Cade Klubnik replaces DJ. We saw him at times last year, but we didn't see enough of him. He's a 5-star. They bring back Will Shipley. I don't love the wide receiver room. I guess that's my only issue with the offense. Bo Collins, Antonio Williams. None of those guys are Sammy Watkins or T. Higgins, but they can make plays. And the thing that I love most about Clemson on the offensive side of the ball, though, other than Shipley coming back and Klubnik, is Garrett Riley is going to be calling the plays now. He takes over as offensive coordinator. That's an upgrade, man. They bring him over from TCU, younger brother of Lincoln Riley. And then you look at the offensive line. They bring back 4 starters, 7 overall on offense. They're going to run the air raid offense that TCU ran last season, which is like a balanced offense where I think they threw the ball 38 times per game, ran it 30 times per game. And then on defense, 8 starters are back. They have the best defensive line in college football. Tyler Davis, I thought he was going to the NFL. He skipped the draft. He comes back.
Yep.
Xavier Thomas comes back. They have their top tackler back. They have 2 NFL linebackers in Jeremiah Trotter and Barrett Carter's back as well. Dabo loves him. All 4 starters back in the secondary, 15 overall. And I like the schedule. Their toughest games are both at home. They have Notre Dame and Florida State. Both of those games are at Clemson this year, dude. Death Valley, I like Clemson, and I like them 18 to 1. I like a little stab for them to win the college football playoff, and I think they win the ACC. I like Florida State a lot. I do think they go over their win total, but I'm going with Clemson to win 11, 12 games this year.
Take every single Clemson Tigers over that you can. Take the win total, take them to win the ACC, take them to make the playoff, take them to win the national championship. Couldn't agree more with anything that you said. Clemson to win the ACC at plus 140 is probably my favorite futures bet of the college football season. I think Florida State is going to be very good, but they're almost too overhyped this year. Because, Ryan, what happens is when we have a program like Florida State, who obviously has this luxurious history, right? They have all these NFL superstars, Bobby Bowden, one of the best programs in the country, Jimbo and Jameis won a national title. Then they disappear for a little bit, and everybody's been so desperate to get Florida State back that they show a little glimmer of hope. They win a lot of games, they have a fun team, and now we're ready to put them on the same field as Clemson and put them in the market the same way as Clemson. Should absolutely not be the case. The key thing, too, is the fact that Clemson gets Florida State at home. I'm literally trying to think about in my head, when is the last time Clemson has lost a home game at Death Valley that was like a marquee game, right? In their heyday, they were always good for the noon game when they were favored by 25. They would lose that big upset, right? No. Back when they were great.
No, back when they would Clemson.
When they would
always, that's what we would call that.
But they would never lose a big time game at home.
No.
Right? And Florida State's going to be big. Notre Dame's going to be big. UNC's going to be big. They're going to win those games. The road schedule is not that difficult.
I actually want to start with Pittsburgh, though, Peach, because my favorite win total of the college football season in the ACC, we've talked about this, Pittsburgh, over 6.5. It's sitting at 7 now. I still like it at 7 because I think their floor is 7 wins, which means you still get the push. The price isn't terrible. It's minus 115, which is funny because I went under on Pitt last season when they were replacing Kenny Pickett. Jordan Addison left for the portal, and he went to USC, obviously. And their win total was 9.5. I just thought 6.5 was way too low. That's a 3-win adjustment. And I think they might actually improve at some spots, especially at the quarterback position. Why? Why do I think that?
You got the boy Phil Jurkovich.
I love him. He takes over for Keaton Slovis, who still is in college football this season. He's the quarterback of BYU, hashtag people forget. He's been in college for like 9 years. He's like Van Wilder. But Jurkovec, man, 24 career starts at BC. The only problem was he struggled to stay healthy. You go back, though, his best season was in 2020, and it was with Frank Cignetti, who's now the offensive coordinator at Pitt. So he spent 2 years at BC with Jurkovec, knows him pretty well. Rodney Hammond's back at running back. He averaged 4 yards per carry last year. 3 of their top 4 wide receivers are back. 3 starters are back on the offensive line. Their defense is always tough. They only have 1 starter back on the D-line. 2 starters back at linebacker. They lose both safeties, but they have 3 corners who had starter experience last year, 5 starters back overall. But I really like their DC there. I like Randy Bates a lot, and I wasn't the biggest Narduzzi fan, but he does a really good job recruiting players that fit that program. So honestly, I think they have a shot to start 7-0 if you look at the schedule, and then they get Notre Dame. I'm down on Notre Dame, man. I love Notre Dame coming into the season after they picked up Sam Hartman, but it's been a mess since then, man. They lost one of their better wide receivers. I still don't really love their secondary. I think Marcus Freeman might be in over his head. Tommy Rees leaves like last minute. Thank God he takes Tyler Buckner with him to go with you guys. But even that's a winnable game, I think, for Pitt. But 7-0 before that. Then they see Notre Dame. That game is on the road. They have a home game against Florida State. I just think a 3-win adjustment is way too many. They avoid Clemson, and they don't have to play Miami in conference play. And I think Miami's going to be a little bit better this year. Like, you look at that schedule, man. Wofford, week 1, a rebuilding Cincinnati team. I love Pittsburgh to at least get to 7 wins, and then you get the push. Love them better at 6.5, but I'm pretty high on them coming up this season. I went under 6.5 wins on Duke, which is actually minus 150 right now over at BetMGM. So some sharp action coming down on the under, I guess, on Duke. I love Mike Elko. Look what he did his 1 year at Notre Dame. That was probably the best defense that I could remember in the last decade. I love Riley Leonard. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks, definitely in the conference. I think he's top 10 in all of college football. If you look at quarterback prospects, he's probably the 3rd best right now. Their top 3 running backs are back. Their wide receivers are solid. Both Calhoun and Jordan Moore are back. 4 starters on the O-line, 10 overall on offense, double-digit starters on defense. But I don't know, man. You look at the schedule, and like last year they were a huge surprise. They won 9 games. They beat 2 teams, though, all season long with a winning record. Now this season, they have to play 7 teams who had a winning record, 7 teams that most likely are going to be in the top 25. That's a big jump. They didn't see Notre Dame. They didn't see Clemson. Now this year you have to play those teams. So, I like Riley Leonard. I really think Mike Elko's doing a great job. But look at their number 1 recruit even this offseason. It's a 4-star kid. It's tough to recruit against Clemson and Florida State.
Of course.
And even Notre Dame. So I think they're doing a great job at Duke. I like Mike Elko, but I think 6 wins is a solid season. And again, they step up in class this year. 7 teams who had a winning record. They only played 2 last year. And I don't think they're catching anybody by surprise. Also, they had a bunch of turnover luck. Under on Duke, 6.5. Don't love the minus 150 price, though.